But let's talk about actual, like, how did you learn to code? Like, I think that a lot of people that I talk to, because, software is such a hot industry right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to get into it. I don't know if it's because of the money or because they really like it or not, whatever the reason is. A lot of people do ask me, like, Chris, I want to learn how to program. What should I do? So, like, what do you tell people
Yeah.
when they ask you that question?
That's a good question since I um, work with a lot of people that are wanting to get into front end web development
Yeah.
and just like tech in general, because they're maybe um, they work as doing sales, or they work in any other industry, and they see like the growth of technology and web development, and so they yeah, how to get in there. um, I would say probably primarily focus on just there's an abundant amount of resources online for that have grown in the last 4 years, maybe, of just like tutorials available, different programs you can go through with tutorial after tutorial, to like some would be video formatted.
Maybe you can give some two examples. Like, what's an example? I know there's Mindful or Thinkful. That's where
There's
you work. That's a
Thinkful.
paid mentorship program. What's a free one that people could try out?
Free Code Camp is
Free
a
Code Camp. Okay.
yeah, and that's like still online, even though it says camp. Yes, but that's like an open source one. It's like a really cool project where you can be led, kind of like curriculum based. If you can find a developer still that you can talk with along the way, then that's great. And I mean, like, through Thinkful, you that's kind of the approach that we take too, is learn the best way you can, and I'll be there to help you out. But Thinkful does have curriculum that can guide you through that.
Yeah, because I feel like for many people, probably being self-taught is difficult because of the motivation. That's probably one of the hardest things when you
Yeah.
get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have a friend that also wants to get into the field, then that's really cool if you can like
Yeah.
motivate each other. Yeah, Free Code Camp. There's like Team Treehouse, which is not really free, but you can learn web development, app development, things like that there.
Code
Tons of
Academy.
resources. Code Academy.
Yeah.
Yep. And like so all these like resources, tutorials are really great for like for learning how to's, and like references. Keep those in mind, plus Google. um,
Yeah.
Learning how to
Search.
learning how to learn is a big part of it, I think.
I agree with you.
People approaching technology have varying levels of understanding, but just the way you approach your learning is like something that I have to go through, like students with, rather than just telling them the answers. Sometimes I'll show them how.
Yeah, that's a good example. Give us an example of that happening. Like
I'll say, why don't you Google that, almost.
Is that basically what it is? Just Google it. Yeah.
Yeah, and help them like learn like some of that base terminology is helpful to where they know what to Google.
I see.
So
I remember, like, I don't know. There's like, see, the problem is that this is not for beginners, unfortunately. I just remember certain curricula that just are so powerful, or so like they're so insightful. I'll name three, but this is maybe for more advanced people. I don't know.
okay.
One was Destroy All Software. It's a
haven't
talk.
heard of that.
He's so
Okay.
hilarious, this guy. So he was trying to do a startup, and he was writing all his code in Python and stuff. His startup really didn't go anywhere, but he started giving talks about what he built, and he found there's so much traction for his teaching, actually. And so he pivoted basically and created a company called Destroy All Software, where he does these video lectures and stuff. And one of the free ones is called like I forget what it's called, but it's basically WAT, like WAT.
Okay.
And he'll just basically go through like an interpreter for Ruby and stuff like that, and show you how ridiculous it is by doing the unexpected. It does the unexpected. Like by adding two things together, you expect one result, but it does the opposite. And so he does this with a bunch of stuff, and it's just hilarious. And it's like an inside joke for anybody who's ever dealt with these languages, because they're like, yeah, that's kind of stupid, isn't it? But it teaches you along the way.
Yeah.
That's one guy.
cool.
Another guy's Cal Henderson, who was one of the chief engineer on Flickr, which got acquired by Yahoo, and he also, I think, was on the founding team for Slack, I think.
Really?
Because they were trying to make their game again. Like, they've had a dream of making this one amazing game for all this time, and every time they're trying to make the game, they make something else instead. But that other thing that they make is successful. Like, Slack's a multi-billion-dollar valued company by now. But Cal Henderson, he wrote a book called like Scalable Web. What was it? Scalable Web Software or something like that. And it was one of those O'Reilly books, and that was one of the most lucid like technical books I've ever read, where he makes these things that in the real world people make it sound so complicated and a big deal, right? Like failover or whatever like that, and like round robining your multiple database servers or all this other stuff. And it sounds so complicated you just can't wrap your head around it. And he'll just like have a little short PHP program that basically does it. And it's like that's all that it is. It can get fancier than that, but he's understood the essence so well
that's really cool.
that his book is just like, oh, same thing with UTF encoding and all sorts of stuff like that. So I really appreciate his book. And there's another guy who I don't remember who wrote a book about Groovy, who was a Christian. He mentions it actually in the introduction or something like that. He wants to give glory to God and things like that.
What's Groovy?
Groovy is a language that's modeled after Ruby, but it runs on the Java interpreter.
Oh, wow.
Or the Java runtime, the JDK, JRE, sorry. And I was trying to learn Groovy because it seemed really cool to be able to have a lot of the Ruby syntactic sugar and all those things like that, but in a Java environment, right, running off of the JRE. But I didn't end up using it, and it's still, I mean, Groovy is still used. Like if you ever had to program Android, Grails, the build system, I think is actually Groovy based. So it's a cool language. But his book was also one of those books where you just knew the author understood his material so well because he could teach it to you so well. And I read a lot of technical books that are just terrible and it shows that the authors still like they know the pieces, but they're not able to kind of synthesize it in a way they'll just like, bam, you get it. And a fourth book that was also really insightful was JavaScript Allonge. It's a free book online. You can also buy it. And this is the book that shows you how to program. It teaches you functional programming, but through JavaScript. And that book helped me to kind of get away from the clutter of JavaScript. So there's kind of there's a famous book in JavaScript world, right, called JavaScript: The Good Parts.
Yeah.
Which is basically talking about how JavaScript was this really Frankenstein language that was invented for the browser, but if you take away the bad stuff, it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, this book, JavaScript Allonge, was teaching me like the functional programming through JavaScript to the point where it was like, oh, because like again, it boils down to the essence, and you can just see like this is an object, two curly braces is an object, that's it, right? And this is a function. A function is also an object, and like just kind of building up from first principles, and then showing you what you can, all the flexibility you have when you do that. So, sorry. I'm passionate about this stuff, oddly enough, and these books are really helpful and good. But probably for beginners, which is what we were talking about, the things that you mentioned.
I think books can be helpful too. As far as books, I've seen some like visual approaches. I think John Duckett, I think is his name.
Duckett, okay.
He wrote a book on JavaScript and jQuery, which is like, I don't know if you're a visual person, then this might be for you. But it's and he has a book on CSS. And like web design as well, but yeah, he takes a very visual approach to like HTML and CSS and demonstrating that as well as JavaScript and jQuery in his other book. So he like has this whole page on just like looking at the syntax of HTML elements, and it's like here's the tag name and getting it, you might think why like take up a whole page explaining. I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? Here's an attribute, but having actually pointing some of these out with words to identify what this is an attribute, then it gives you something to Google, because then you're trying to, like I was saying, when you're trying to understand the terminology, let's say you want to color something blue, then you can actually you know that what you're looking for is a CSS property.
I see.
So you can Google color CSS property and you just get the result right there.
I see.
So yeah, having that foundation is great, and something that the obvious is often missed by technical books. So that was something that was
because it makes clear what the obvious stuff that we all take for granted are.
Yeah,
I get that. I take a lot for granted now. It's like, why don't you get this? It's like, it's not obvious. So what would you say to people who are trying out, and how can they tell if it's for them or not? You know, maybe it's not for everybody.
Front-end web development.
Front-end web development, programming, those kinds of things. How can they tell? We get frustrated all the time, right? When CSS is not doing what we wanted to do, or when things are broken. And there's a difference between that frustration and powering through it and persevering versus just like, okay, I think I know enough and I probably don't actually want to do this. Or like I really want to do this, even though it could be frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, how would you say people can tell?
I don't know. It's hard to distinguish between like, I'm okay at it and I need to pursue it further to get better, and I'm okay at it and I need to, I'm not enjoying it. I think wherever, I think pray about it, and understand where, what your goals are, and just commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. It says, I'm no life direction consultant.
This is not life direction
but,
consultant, but how
but-
how about this for yourself? How did you know you actually wanted to
Okay,
program?
that's a good question. Well, I was telling Alan that I was basically I was looking back at the history of my life, and I looking for the common thread of what I enjoyed to do, and as well as what my goals were, what my mission was as a person, just to glorify God. And under that, what would that look like? Well, I see in my past, I see that I've always enjoyed building things, and recently that has manifested itself in coding. But I've liked
Legos?
just like engineering. I've tried to build a quadcopter once.
Cool.
I haven't like brought that fully to like completion because it did a 180 and crashed.
Oh no.
But that was like the night of
Oh.
flying it.
Yay! Oh.
But yeah, that was something I really enjoyed to do.
Like
and
building stuff, yeah.
yeah, building stuff and coding. I get to build a web app. So I've been in search of how I can use these gifts that God has given me, which intersect with things I'm passionate about, like that I enjoy doing, with what I think my mission is as a person, as a child of God that's been redeemed by the grace of Jesus. How I can bring Him glory and just advance the kingdom. So that's why I love Code for the Kingdom.
Because it makes
By
you
the
lets
way,
you do that
yeah.
explicitly. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about your background and your thoughts on this. It's really good.
Thanks.